Morning, everyone. Thank you, Kylie, for the introduction. Really excited and honored to be presenting our guests, presenters from ORCID today. So we have Nabil Ksibi. Nabil is responsible for fostering ORCID community adoption within the global direct members. As part of his responsibilities, Nabil supports ORCID members as they engage with ORCID to integrate different workflows and benefit from the ORCID API interoperability. With an energy engineering degree, Nabil is passionate about open research, as well as diversity and inclusivity in the innovation and research ecosystem. And we also have Lombe Tembo. Lombe is responsible for improving equity of participation in ORCID in currently underrepresented areas, especially the Global South. She's also responsible for growing membership and adoption in currently underrepresented regions, whilst ensuring member satisfaction and value. She has a BA in economics and an MA in development studies. Welcome to the ORCID team. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ivy. Thank you very much, Kylie, and thank you for the whole Agile team. This is a great opportunity today to have this presentation and describing basically what ORCID can do for researchers and editors and journals. My name is Nabil Ksibi. I'm engagement lead at ORCID, so I'm taking care of our global direct members. And really, good morning, bonjour, and assalamu alaikum whenever you are in Africa. So just to start with a small presentation about us, about who will be speaking today. So I have with me today Lombe Tembo, my colleague who's taking care of grant program, the grant program at ORCID. And also she's engagement lead, taking care of some of our consortia in Africa and also working on fostering our community engagement in Africa. Yeah, this is my picture. It's me, Nabil Ksibi, and I'm engagement lead. I'm not gonna dive more into the introduction for myself. So without further ado, the agenda today will be including the ORCID offer, what ORCID is offering as services and offerings for the community. And by community, I really target journals, publishers, editors, researchers, academics, organizations and institutions that are playing a role in the research and academic and scientific ecosystem. And then we're gonna talk a little bit more about the benefits for researchers and authors. Then you're gonna try to see some common user challenges and how can we solve them. I mean, when I say user, it means like, yeah, author or innovator or researcher or individual basically who is using the ORCID registry of publishers. And then Lombe will be talking about the ORCID Global Participation Program. And then we're going to have a short moment for discussion and Q&As. So ORCID's mission is really to enable transparent and trustworthy connections between researchers, their contributions, and their affiliations by providing this unique, persistent identifier for individuals to use as they engage in their research, scholarship, and innovation activities. So this is the ORCID mission. You can find it on our webpage and the homepage. We have there also our vision, which is also very, very, very simple, where we are really visioning a world where all who participates in research, scholarship, and innovation are uniquely identified and linked to their contributions across disciplines, borders, and time. What does ORCID offer? So we have three main services. The first one is the ORCID ID, which is a unique persistent identifier, free of charge for researchers and for individuals, self-faculty members, authors, editors. And this ORCID ID is 16-digit identifier linked, like it's a hyperlink, you know, a URL where any user or any individual can click on and reach the ORCID record of the individual. And then we have the ORCID record itself, which is a digital CV or profile connected to the ORCID ID. And that can include employment, education, funding, peer review, research output, and other metadata. In terms of how to communicate with this record or with this registry and how to basically use the ORCID ID, we've set what we call APIs or application programming interfaces, and those will help systems, platforms, and even users to communicate with the ORCID registry or with the ORCID record in a very easy way, and which also offering this kind of interoperability that it's very beneficial when you want to integrate systems or you want to retrieve data from ORCID or push data to ORCID. So these are RESTful APIs. Maybe it's too technical, but just to mention that RESTful APIs are very much flexible with different other languages and applications when you want basically to communicate with the ORCID registry. Then if we talk a little bit about our community and how basically we focus on the community as our main driver to promote what we are doing. Just to say that ORCID really strive to enable transparency and trustworthiness, and in terms of connection between researchers, their contributions, and their affiliation. And by adopting ORCID, institutions and researchers really foster an open research infrastructure that will be providing, you know, the necessary requirements for both individual and organizations to move forward with sharing a trustworthy content and reliable data. ORCID anticipates increased engagement in Africa through additional community adoption, conversation, and collaboration. And this is what we're gonna see with the Global Participation Fund, and also with a couple of slides from my part of the presentation showing what are the actors in Africa that are really advocates for ORCID and supporters for ORCID. And as you can see here on the right, this is the circle diagram where we put the researcher at the center of everything we do. And connecting with this researcher is very easy through the ORCID API and through the ORCID registry. When this researcher is having the ORCID ID and it's really filled with the required and relevant information for publishers, for discovery systems, for funders, and for institutional systems. And it's worth to mention that any component of this circle diagram can communicate with the ORCID record to push or retrieve information. And that information will also help the other party. So for example, if the publisher is pushing publication information to the ORCID record of the researcher, and then the funder would like to understand and assess what this researcher did throughout their career, they can read this information on the ORCID record of the researcher that is published or pushed by the publisher. And same thing with discovery services and institutional systems. This is basically the power of interoperability between systems, and one of the benefits of integrating with ORCID. Then just to talk a little bit about our values, we really believe in openness, trust, and inclusivity, and those are really standing on two bases: the social constructs and the technical constructs. We do have funding principle and values. You can really consult them publicly on our website in the homepage. And we are committed to keep the researcher having control on their record, on their data, and on who is accessing their ORCID record. We are equitable, sustainable, and we are, let's say, aiming to have a sustainable business model. We reached the break-even in 2019. So now we are not depending on any funder. We really are sustained by the fees that we are collecting from our members, member organizations. And these member organizations are voting for our board of members. So this is how we are a community-led organization. The membership is open to all, as I shared previously, whether you are a publisher or a funder or a research institute or a university, you are very much welcome to join and integrate with ORCID. And we do have a continuous community engagement and dialogue. So we are very open to look at use cases, look at particular cases, and also help our community to understand how easily they can integrate with ORCID. We do use open source software and fair open data, and we do have a public API. It is somehow limited comparing to the member API, but at least for testing and for small applications, you can use it to authenticate ORCID IDs. But then if you want to push publication data or read limited data, you need to have the ORCID membership. And we do have a data dump every year with the public data file, so that you can also consult what is public in ORCID throughout the year, what was basically included in the ORCID registry throughout the year. And then we offer a sandbox testing environment. So if you are having your integration plans and you are just looking to test how this will look like in your manuscript submission system or publishing system, you can request a set of sandbox credentials and then test your integration. Our product roadmap is open for feedback. Really, if you want, you can Google Trello ORCID product team, and then you can access our public Trello board for feedback. So if you have you see any challenge or error in the technical implementation, or something that would help ORCID in better serve the community, then please don't hesitate to go to that board or send us a request via our support center, and then we can convey that to the product team. We basically support of persisters. If files, we are very much happy to look into assessing that and add that identifier to the registry. So this is a screenshot about our some of our members and advocates in Africa. Unfortunately, members in Nigeria, in Cameroon. We have members in Angola. In South Africa, we have a consortium with I think around 20 members, including the NRF South Africa. We have members in Botswana, in Kenya, and in Egypt, and also in Tunisia. Other advocates and supporters of persistent identifiers in general in Africa are Africa Archive, TCC Africa, ITOCA, EFL, EARIMA, WACRAN, and UbuntuNet. So EARIMA, WACRAN, and UbuntuNet are the regional research and education networks in Africa. Sorry. So the benefits for researchers and authors are basically the naming disambiguation. So when we use ORCID, we make sure that we have a unique reference to share with any system or with any organization that is uniquely owned and uniquely representing the researcher. This is why, and one of the setbacks is to have duplicates ORCID records, and we're gonna talk about this in the next couple of slides. So it's very simple to acquire an ORCID ID. It starts with the sign-in. So as soon as you go to orcid.org, you will be having the hand to sign in for your ORCID record. And it's really going through 3 simple steps. We are not requesting more than the name and the email address and the password. As soon as you add those, setting up your basically access, you will have the possibility to confirm the terms and conditions, and that's it. So it's very, very easy and very simple to create an ORCID record. Then one of the first things to do is to add the bio information, and it's a free text in the ORCID record that can add anything related there. We have also a section for keywords. So yeah, these are like the first steps that you can do when creating the ORCID record. And then you can play around the visibility settings. So we have 3 different visibility settings in all the different sections of the ORCID record. So for example, I want to have my affiliation available to public. I'm gonna choose this green icon here, which is available to everyone. And then my my employment or my affiliation will be available to everyone. If I have some kind of works or publications that I want to keep for myself, I might use this lock here, which is showing the availability and visibility only to me. And there is also this trusted parties, this key here in the center, which is really permitting access to trusted parties. And by trusted parties, I mean the members who will be integrating with ORCID, and also systems that do have an integration with ORCID. So some organizations will request access to read this information if you select this visibility settings. Sorry. Yeah, so this is pretty it regarding the ORCID ID. Please give it a try if you want. I know it's very easy. Can take no longer than 1 or 2 minutes. So if you don't have your ORCID ID, please feel free to create it. And if you encounter any issue, I mean, we are here to discuss it. So in terms of benefits for the researcher or for the author, the ORCID records is permitting individuals to uniquely distinguish themselves. And also it offers the name flexibility. So we have a section in the ORCID record, which is saying also known as. And I myself, I added there my name in different variations in Arabic, in even in French with different Latin characters with different writings. So I myself am Nabil Ksibi. I can be Nuna Ksibi in a publication, and can be N.A. Ksibi in another work. So all that I can collect them in one unique place, which is the AKA section of my ORCID record. And then at the end, just share the ORCID ID just as a representation of all these variations of name. Now, in terms of time, ORCID reduces the administrative burden for researchers, so more time to do research and less time to fill in forms and doing some, let's say, additional steps. And also, as I said, the visibility settings is very much flexible to public or trusted or private. So the individual can play around those visibility settings to control who can see what in their ORCID record. And then reducing administrative burden is also applicable for organizations. So when publishers or organizations or generally ORCID members are adopting ORCID, they do have basically this information coming up from ORCID if it's for building a CV system or for synchronizing a discovery services or for publishing. There is this information that can come from the ORCID record and then can save you a lot of time in assessing or in basically in the moderation process. And then all this is portable and according to basically a lot of things like GDPR in Europe, like POPI Act here in South Africa, like US Privacy Shield, and also with respect to FAIR principles, all the data that you have in your ORCID records can be really deleted or can be transposed or basically a portable profile that you can get out of ORCID. So these are the different benefits for the researcher and the author. This is some numbers and basically how authors can use their ORCID records. Of course, there is the sign-in part to the manuscript or grant system, which is very much helpful and easy. So the author or the user will just have to bring their ORCID record, and then with an integration, synchronize this sign-in with their ORCID record so that they can easily access to the platform. Sorry. And then there is the part of pre-filling the submission form. As I said, systems can read from ORCID, so you can use that functionality to pre-fill the submission form with information from the ORCID record. And also, co-authors and collaborators can be added to the work if they are providing their ORCID IDs, and it's included in the metadata when submitting the work or when sharing the work. Then researchers or authors will be having their ORCID record automatically updated with work once published or grant information once awarded. And this is basically the power of open research infrastructure and the interoperability that it brings to your systems and your infrastructure. The best part is when the integration is reaching the synchronization phase, any information that is pushed on the ORCID record can be synchronized with your either manuscript system or funding system, and then vice versa. And that's using also a notification functionality. It means that whenever anything is added to the ORCID record, the user will be notified about that. And you can also use that functionality in your system if a work is synchronized with your system and you want your user to know about that. Then granting permission to services such as Crossref to automatically update their records on behalf of publishers. So this is a also great benefit because we do have a great partnership with Crossref and DataCite, and we do have what we call the auto update functionality, which is working when you submit when an author is submitting a sorry, a work on a platform, and that platform is integrated with DataCite or Crossref. And if your ORCID ID is included in the metadata of that work or that say object, this information or this publication will be pushed automatically to your ORCID record via DataCite. So the source of the assertion in your ORCID record will be Crossref or DataCite, not the journal itself or the platform. Just a simple example, publishing a preprint on Zenodo. So Zenodo is a kind of now becoming famous preprint platform. And as soon as I add my ORCID record there, once published, I'm gonna see this publication popping in my ORCID record with the relevant metadata there, co-authors, and then really the necessary description and the necessary details for the readers to understand that that work. Then, sorry. So yeah, just to circle back on the researcher control and how it's very much important for us to have this kind of balance between the researcher control and the trustworthiness of data. So this is why we are giving the hand to our members to assert data and to read data from the ORCID record, and also for the ORCID record holders to basically add manually their works and their affiliations, and then really anything related to their research cycle or you know, publication process. So yeah, if you want to dive a little bit in the ORCID record, and if there is any section that you want to understand more about, please let us know, and we can share here more details. So this is a simple example of a researcher when having their articles in different platforms. So it doesn't matter how, I mean, the language or the format that I'm adding to like my ORCID record as a name, because I am still having, but also this ORCID record as a whole would be the container of these different articles or linking basically to those different articles, so that it is a central place for all these research production or research output or publications, to federate them in in one unique place, so that even if it's published in different publishers' platforms or different manuscript systems, you can still have this centralized place to basically federate all those writings. Then if I'm looking at, so this is our colleague in DataCite. He was previously working with one of our members. And I like the slide because I used it also with the presentation with him. And the idea was to search for his name and to look at the results. And as you can see here, the results are different for the even for the four first entries or for first results. If I'm looking, for example, at Muhammad Mustafa in Gauss or King Abdul Aziz University of I find it a little bit difficult. If I don't know his affiliation and I don't know nothing about him, I just want to look for this author or this researcher, I will have this discrepancy from here. But if I know his ORCID records, I can directly use it and know and directly access the ORCID record and really without losing it. Then if we talk a little bit about our trust markers program, so what we call trust markers are these assertions that systems and member systems can do within the ORCID registry. As you can see here on the right, this is an example of an assertion of an employment from the University of Oxford. And you can see that the source is ORCID integration at the University of Oxford. Same thing for a review activity. You can see that the source here is the publisher or the publishing group, and you can have more insights on this review, of course, depending on the review type that you will be choosing, either it is blind or double blind or yeah, all that jazz. We can have more details and more insights on the review itself. So here, for example, it's just showing of the journal, but you can elaborate more on adding what relevant data you can see there. Yeah, so these are the trust markers, little information about that. And then this is an example from repository assertion. So this is from KAUST repository. They are more focusing on thesis and dissertations, and they shifted their whole workflows to basically reply to that need. And this is one of the trust markers that you can see in the ORCID record of the individual or the researcher working at KAUST. And this is another example of an assertion of work or a journal article. And you can see that the assertion here is the High Council for Science and Education in Jordan, who are having a nice integration with ORCID. And whatever you put in the, we call it JOIP, the Jordanian Open Innovation Platform, whatever information you're putting in the platform is going to be synchronized with the ORCID record of the individual. So you can, yeah, you can either type in JOIP Jordan, or I'm going to share the link with you if you want to know more about that. Common user challenges. So we receive a lot of tickets regarding duplicated ORCID IDs, regarding forgotten passwords, how to update the ORCID record, how to add works, how to add contributions. And really, the best place now to find answers there is our Help and Support Center. So this is a link. We offer it in different languages, and you can find really some nice frequently asked questions there. So there are strong chances that you can find the answer of your query or request in that center. So we really encourage users and ORCID holders and individuals to first dive into the Help and Support Center. And if there is no resolution and they cannot find a resolution for their request, then there is the Submit a Request Here button that they can use to get in contact with our support team. So briefly, ORCID for publishers. The benefits for publishers are understanding the researchers and the authors by first collecting the ORCID authenticated ORCID IDs of authors and reviewers, and then integrating this the ORCID basically workflow within the submission system. That's also helping in understanding the background of the researchers, what they did, or authors, and then it helps in some kind of assessments. A better reviewer selection, so it helps also if you want to do some selections on reviewers, peer review recognition, and we used that in we saw that in a couple of systems like the recently adopted UKRI system, where they are using peer review recognition assertions for their reviewers. And yeah, I'm also happy to share the link if you are interested to learn more about the case. And then one of the benefits is to enhance the discoverability for authors. So if we assign this ORCID ID to the author, and the author is sharing it with different other either publishers or funders or organizations, then it might bring all the information that is on the ORCID record to the system of that organization or funder or publisher, and that's helping basically in disseminating the work of the author or researcher. And then a more consistent experience. So the users will be signing into ORCID, and that's gonna really reduce a lot of frustration and burden of managing multiple credentials. And then an interconnected infrastructure, as I shared, ORCID is using persistent identifiers and connected with those persistent identifiers. And we really want to push for the use of this interoperable infrastructure. So that all the systems and all platforms that would like to connect with ORCID can benefit of this information and can benefit of this connection with the ORCID registry. Then a small, let's say, description about the importance of the authentication for publishers and authors. As you can see here, I tried to share this authorization messaging box when I'm logging into eLife Science or eLife Review or preprints and using my ORCID record. So first thing that I receive is this authorization box where it says eLife Review or preprints has asked for the following access to your ORCID record. And this access is reading my information with visibility set to trusted organizations, right? So I know what they want to do with my ORCID record. I want the scope of their access, and I can authorize or deny their access. And which is ensuring basically quality and accuracy. So avoiding manual errors when capturing the ORCID ID during the submission process, and also building trust and credibility with these authenticated sources. And also, it's beneficial to collect authenticated ORCID IDs, right? So it's very much helpful to know that this ORCID ID belongs to that person, and I can trust this this information. Now I'm gonna stop sharing and give the hand to my colleague Lombe, who's gonna talk a little bit more about our global participation program, which is very exciting and very helpful in Africa. Lombe, the floor is yours.
Hi, Nabil. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just trying to fix my screen.
No worries.
Great. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so the introduction is done already, so I'm going to skip that. Also, just to say that I love all the questions that are coming through, and please keep them coming. I've answered some of them, but we will have a discussion afterwards a bit more. So I want to talk a bit about the Global Participation Program. And basically, this is a program that was launched in response to the needs of the community. And this has been done in partnership with our generous partners. So Nabil has spoken quite a bit about ORCID adoption around the world. But what we have seen is that in terms of individual users, we have users in 250 countries. And that's basically every country on the planet, apart from those four that are listed there. And we have over 9 million yearly active researchers, as well as over 1,000 organizational members. So I hope you're able to see this map over here. But so what we do have is the green areas on the map show ORCID consortia, and the blue shows direct members who are found in specific countries. But as you can tell, there are so many gray areas, and that's mainly parts of Africa, South America, those specific parts of the world. So what we're trying to do is to increase adoption of ORCID in these specific countries in terms of organizational members. Also, in terms of active integrated member systems, we have over 5,000. So that is a bit about the numbers. So ORCID's Global Participation Program is a two-pronged approach to making sure that we increase adoption around the world. And this is done with one of those being the Membership Equity Program, and the second one being the Global Participation Program, or the Global Participation Fund. So a bit more about these two specific programs. The first one being the Membership Equity Program. And basically, this is a discounted membership fee structure for consortium members. And so for members that are coming from low-income countries, there is an 80% discount. And for lower middle income countries, there's a 50% discount. And also, if members are trying to form a consortium, there's a lower threshold of 3 members for the initial year, as opposed to 5, which is the case for a normal consortium. This is also fully funded by ORCID. And then on the other hand, we have the Global Participation Fund. We actually just recently closed the 3rd cycle, and we're currently evaluating those applications. So under this, we have 2 distinct grant programs. The first one being the Community Development and Outreach Fund. And this is to fund local partners to build ORCID communities of practice in the Global South. We also have the Technical Integration Grants, and these are supposed to fund the development of systems that are likely to drive participation in the Global South. This particular aspect is made possible by the generosity of ORCID's founding lenders, but the admin costs are funded by ORCID. So in each of these cases, we talk about low-income countries, and we also talk about lower middle-income countries. And these are as defined by the World Bank income classification. This changes on an annual basis, so it's revised every year. So some countries move from lower income to low income, from low income to lower middle income, and they do shift around quite a bit. So we do have to keep an eye on that. So the structure of the program supports a diversity of grantees to spread the risk and also to increase the chance of positive outcomes. So we have 2 grant cycles per year. And just like I said earlier, we recently finished the 3rd cycle. We stopped receiving applications for the 3rd cycle, which was the 2nd one for 2023. We actually started the GPF. We launched it last year when we had the 1st cycle. So for each cycle, we accept about 5 grants, and the funding award per grant is between $5,000 and $20,000 US. And in terms of other grantee benefits, apart from that financial aspect, there is dedicated ORCID staff contact for the awardees. There's also an invitation to participate in the ORCID Grantee Forum and community. Also, there are invitations to grantee community events. We also have invitations to ORCID virtual and in-person events. And lastly, there is inclusion in ORCID's ongoing communications program. So in terms of the focus and the goals of the fund, these align with ORCID's strategic objective to increase global participation. And I already touched on the focus communities, but basically we're just trying to focus on countries where ORCID participation to date has been low, specifically for the Global South, and that's low and lower middle income countries. And then in terms of the goals, we're trying to remedy ORCID participation gaps in the focus community areas by providing grants to develop ORCID communities of practice in low and lower middle income countries, to also build understanding and use of ORCID in local contexts, because that's very important, and also to create and enhance technical integrations that would go on to support these burgeoning communities. So in terms of the awardees, last year we awarded our first tranche of the GPF grants, and we had 4 community development and outreach grants and 1 technical integration grant. So if you want to read about the different grantees, there's links there, and I'm sure the presentations will be shared afterwards. But so we had EcoConnect from Nigeria, we had CLISC, which is in Kenya, and the the Technical University of Hamburg, which is working with Science on deep space CRIS improvements, as well as UVPI and the Africa Archive. So these are just the grantees that we awarded last year. And for this year, we had only 4 grantees, all of which were community development and outreach grants. And these were ITOCA, which is based in South Africa, the InflipNet Center, which is based in India, University of Sri, which is in Sri Lanka, and also the Public Knowledge Project. So we do have some very exciting grants that are currently running. The projects are, we're hoping to share a bit more when we get some actual results that can be disseminated over our social media. So yes, that's a bit about the Global Participating Program, but please do keep in touch with us. We do have an ORCID on-demand outreach page, and these are the links to for the live events, and also there's a link there for event resources. So this is going to be shared. You'll be able to take a look at that. Please do sign up. We do have some very exciting content that we would love to share with you. Also, in terms of our social media, we can you can find us on all these different platforms. The links are included in there. And yeah, that's all from us. Thank you very much. And I'm sure that we can discuss anything that comes up and answer any questions. Those are also our email addresses in case you would like to reach out to us for any additional questions that might come up. Thank you so much.
Absolutely marvelous. Thank you so much. Right. This is the call for the Q&A section. So if anybody has questions, please pop them into the Q&A box, and please indicate if you would like it answered in text or aloud. If the latter, I will read it and one of our guests will answer. So pleased to see such a detailed and comprehensive slideshow. That was amazing. I have learned everything this morning as well. Right, so we'll give it a few minutes for questions to come in. Questions or thoughts, if anybody has anything more general.
Lombe, thank you. I just want to quickly ask if you wouldn't mind answering the first question from Teferi that you answered it in text. If you wouldn't mind just elaborating on that just a little bit, just to reinforce. I know that it's all been spoken about, but just to reinforce it for our editors and researchers. I think it was a good and often misunderstood part of the ORCID IDE.
Thank you. And of course, I'm happy to expand on that a bit more. Yeah. So in terms of persistent identifiers, we have persistent identifiers for people, for places, and for things, for digital objects. So there was the question was, the question mentioned ORCID and how it could be different from other identifiers like DOIs. So basically, ORCID would be the persistent identifier specifically for people, which would uniquely identify you as an individual. But then DOIs, on the other hand, identify specific digital objects. So these could be things like data sets, it could be scholarly articles, it could be books. Yeah, so any digital objects would then be uniquely identified by the DOI. So that is the difference in the different persistent identifiers. So they actually work very well together. Yeah, the different persistent identifiers. It's more of a collaborative effort, and this also reinforces interoperability. Hope that helps.
Perfect. Thank you.
Right. I see we have one question in the Q&A box, which Nabil is answering currently. I'm going to ask that we also read that answer aloud, because I feel like it is a question more than one person probably has.
Yeah, probably I'll go ahead and answer it here. So thank you so much, Mr. Khalid, for question. And the question is the difference in how to create it. So if I understand well, what would be the difference between an ORCID ID created for a researcher or an ORCID ID created for an author, right? If I and in that case, there is no difference. The ORCID ID is unique. The ORCID ID for the publisher as an institution or institute, we do not provide an ORCID ID for institutions. The ORCID ID for the institution is some kind of an internal ID for us that we register in our systems. And in order for us to give you the access or the credentials to the member API, right? It's not revealed publicly, and it's not. I mean, logically, it's not meant for institutions. The ORCID ID is just only for individuals and for people, just like how Lombe did explain it now. Hope this is answering your question, Mr. Khalid. Great. Yeah, please feel free if there's any other question, either regarding systems that are used in manuscript submission or publishing workflows, or really anything that can help you in further adopting this kind of identifiers.
Also, I've just seen a question from Ivy regarding who is eligible for the grants. That's a great question. So the grants are not for individual researchers, they are for institutions. So this could be, they definitely have to be non-profit organizations, or they can be government bodies, but we do not fund commercial entities, and we don't fund individuals either.
Great, thank you, Lombe. And I'm seeing another question, which is saying, can publications which are not digitally accessible be included in a researcher's ORCID profile? Yes, you can add manually information and data about your publication. And but I mean, maybe the challenge or the setback is that it's not gonna be linked to other platforms, because those persistent identifiers like the DOI, like ORCID, and the ORCID structure itself, it can help in retrieving data or the metadata about this publication in much better way if they are embedded in the metadata. But you can still really manually add any information about your publication if you have it, not digitally accessible, and yeah, you can keep it there as an information. Any other question? So I'm not seeing the whole full questions in the chat box. I'm just following up on the Q&A. So yeah, if you have any question, please write it on the Q&A section. Well, I think there's a question might be addressed to Lombe. It says, Dr. Peter saying, can you explain what actually is application for grant for? I lost you there. So Lombe, if you can
Sure.
answer
So
this one?
absolutely. So as I had started the presentation by saying that we are trying to increase ORCID's participation, ORCID uptake in specific regions. So what the fund is for is to either build communities of practice or to increase the uptake of ORCID. And this is also, it could be done through improving technical integrations that would support the uptake of ORCID in those specific countries. And that's why, there are two specific grant programs. There's one that focuses specifically on technical integration, and then the other part is specifically for community development. So those are the two distinct grant programs. So that's the overall goal is to increase ORCID uptake in low-income countries and lower middle-income countries. So that's what the grant is supposed to be used for, in a nutshell.
Thank you, Lombe. And really, thank you for all the participants, because I'm seeing that we have participation from everywhere in Africa, which is very exciting.
That's great. Thank you both. I think Kylie may want to just close up now. I think we're all done.
I will close. If there are any further questions, please email Ajol or our ORCID guests directly. Otherwise, I will thank all of our attendees for taking an hour out of their busy weeks to attend this. And I will thank our ORCID guests. Thank you so much. This has been absolutely fantastic. This is not a resource I personally am very familiar with, as I'm not primarily a researcher, but I have learned so much about the general usefulness of the ORCID and why everybody should adjust it. And I would add, for existing partner editors, having authors use ORCIDs is in fact something that counts towards the 3-star rating. So if you should probably consider looking into that if you haven't already. I am going to end our recording very soon, and thank you very, very much. Our next webinar is in a few weeks' time, so keep an eye on your inboxes for the topic and the exact date and time. Thank you so very, very much, and have an excellent Friday and weekend further.